Life has a way of throwing challenges at us when we least expect it. Sometimes it feels like we're stuck in a storm with no way out. Have you ever felt that weight pressing on your chest, the uncertainty clouding your vision, and the feeling that there's no way forward? You may feel overwhelmed, as if you're standing at the edge of a cliff, unsure of how to take the next step. But let me tell you something important. Even when you can't see the way, there is always a way. And that way, even when hidden, is there for you if you have faith. We all face obstacles. It's a part of the human experience. Whether it's a personal struggle, a financial crisis, a relationship breakdown, or a seemingly impossible goal, we've all been there, facing the harsh winds of adversity. But here's the truth. What separates those who give up from those who push through is not the size of the obstacle, but the power of belief in something greater. When the road seems blocked, the weight unbearable, and hope feels like a distant memory, it's at that very moment when you must turn to your faith and trust in a higher power. Now, you might be wondering, how does faith actually help in a practical sense? What does it mean to trust in something bigger than myself when everything feels so uncertain? Well, faith isn't just about waiting for a miracle to happen. It's about knowing that every step you take, every choice you make, is part of a bigger plan. It's about the quiet confidence that even when the path is unclear, you're not walking it alone. You're not simply hoping for something good to happen. You're actively trusting that there's a purpose, that there's meaning in the struggle, and that every setback is a setup for something greater. But here's the kicker. This isn't always easy. Trusting a process you can't always see requires vulnerability. It requires letting go of the illusion that you can control everything, that you can predict every twist and turn of your life. It's about surrendering to the understanding that while you may not control the storm, you can control your response to it. That is where faith becomes powerful. It's not about the absence of fear or struggle. It's about the presence of a deeper trust that guides you through the darkest nights. In this video, I'm going to show you how to tap into that powerful force. You'll learn how to face life's toughest challenges not with dread, but with a sense of purpose. You'll understand why trusting a higher power isn't just some lofty ideal, but a practical tool that can help you rise above your circumstances. And most importantly, you'll discover that even in your toughest moments, God has already paved a way for you. One you may not see yet, but one that's there all along. So, stay with me until the end. What you'll hear today could change the way you face obstacles forever. The way you approach life's struggles could be completely transformed, and you might just see a way forward where you once saw only darkness. This is your moment to shift your perspective, to trust that no matter the storm you're in, God will make a way for you. Uncertainty can be one of the most overwhelming feelings we experience. It's like standing in the middle of a fog where nothing is clear and every direction feels just as uncertain as the next. In those moments, when the future feels like a blank page and the weight of doubt presses heavy on our shoulders, we can easily feel lost. The world moves on around us while we stand still, paralyzed by the unknown. But what if I told you that in those very moments of uncertainty, God is closest to us? It's strange, isn't it? When everything seems out of control, that's often when we are most in need of divine guidance. And though we may not see it, there is a deep, quiet presence guiding us through the storm. Sometimes it's in the silence of uncertainty where God's whispers of reassurance can be heard most clearly. The world may feel chaotic, but it's during these times that we are given the opportunity to lean into faith in a way we might never have considered before. Difficult circumstances have a way of magnifying the feeling of isolation. When things get tough, it can feel like you're alone in your struggle, fighting battles that no one else sees. You wonder how you'll ever make it through, or if there's even a way out. And it's in these darkest moments that it's easy to believe you're walking this road all by yourself. But you're not. God's presence is not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes, it's the quiet assurance that you're not alone in the fight. The strength you find in those moments doesn't always come from yourself. It comes from the belief that you're being carried, even when you can't see the hands lifting you. When life throws its hardest challenges, faith has a way of providing a strength that goes beyond what we can comprehend. In times of trial, when everything around us feels uncertain and shaky, faith can act as the steady foundation we need to stand tall. It's not that the difficulties disappear, but that we find the courage to keep moving forward in spite of them. Faith helps us tap into a power greater than ourselves, reminding us that we are not limited to our own strength. Believing in something larger than our own understanding gives us clarity when everything seems clouded. It offers a perspective that we might not be able to see when we're consumed by fear and doubt. When we trust in something greater, we realize that our challenges are part of a bigger picture, one that we may not fully understand, but one that still moves us forward. Faith shifts our focus from the weight of the problem to the power of the solution. It gives us courage to face the unknown with the knowledge that we're not walking alone, but with a divine presence guiding our every step. Patience is one of the most challenging yet essential aspects of trusting in God's timing. It's easy to think that when we're waiting for something, we're simply standing still, doing nothing. But that's not the case. Waiting is not a passive act. It's a period of growth, of learning, and of becoming more than we were before. It's in those moments of uncertainty, when we're unsure of what comes next, that God is shaping us, preparing us for what's to come. We live in a world that thrives on instant gratification. We want answers now, solutions today, results yesterday. But when we trust in God's plan, we realize that His timing is perfect, even when it doesn't align with our own. It's difficult to understand why things don't happen on our schedule, but that's where the true test of faith comes in. We have to let go of the need for control and embrace the process of waiting. In doing so, we allow ourselves to grow in ways we might not have expected. Waiting gives us the space to develop patience, to learn resilience, and to understand that not everything happens on our timeline. It challenges us to trust that God is working behind the scenes, even when we can't see the immediate results. During these times, we are being shaped into stronger, more grounded individuals. The lessons we learn during the waiting period are often the most valuable. Patience teaches us perseverance, humility, and the ability to wait for something far greater than we could have imagined. As we wait, we also grow in our trust. Each day that passes without immediate answers strengthens our faith. We learn that God's ways are far greater than our own understanding. His plan isn't just about timing, it's about preparing us for the blessings that lie ahead. When we choose to wait, we're not just waiting for a breakthrough, we're allowing ourselves to become the person who is ready to receive it. The waiting period is a time of preparation. Think of it as a season of nurturing, just like a seed planted in the soil. It's not immediately visible, but beneath the surface it's growing, developing roots and gaining strength. The seed isn't idle. It's becoming something far more powerful. Similarly, during our waiting period, we are gaining qualities that will help us succeed when the time is right. We may not feel like much is happening on the surface, but God is at work in ways we can't always see. Patience teaches us that what we're becoming is just as important as what we're waiting for. So, as we wait for what's ahead, remember that patience isn't about doing nothing. It's about doing the hard work of trusting when everything feels uncertain, knowing that God's plan is unfolding just as it should. Each moment of patience is a step toward the greater good that God has in store for us. There are times in life when everything feels out of place, like the pieces of a puzzle just don't fit together. We're so focused on the immediate situation that we can't see the bigger picture unfolding before us. When things don't go as planned, it's easy to feel like we're lost, like we've made a mistake or missed the mark. But often, it's in these moments of confusion that God's plan is moving behind the scenes, far beyond what we can understand in the moment. We live in a world where we want things to make sense right away. We want clear answers, quick resolutions, and a straight path to our goals. But God's ways are not our ways. His plan is often far greater, deeper, and more intricate than we can fathom. We may think we're heading in one direction, only to be faced with a setback that forces us to change course. But these setbacks are often divine redirections. The closed doors, the detours, and the delays aren't signs that we've failed. They're signs that God is guiding us towards something better, something that we may not be able to see yet. In those moments when things don't go as expected, trust that there's a purpose behind it. We can't always understand why things happen the way they do, but we can trust that God sees the whole picture while we see only a small part. What feels like a setback in our eyes could be the very thing that sets us up for greater opportunities down the road. We may not understand why a job didn't work out, why a relationship ended, or why our plans fell through, but in hindsight we often realize that those moments were the necessary steps toward the path we were meant to take. God's plan exceeds our understanding. It's easy to be frustrated when things don't go as we hoped, but what if those struggles are shaping us into the person we need to become? What if those detours are leading us exactly where we're supposed to go, even if it's a place we didn't imagine for ourselves? Think of the more difficult experiences and opportunities once tested and proven, for which we reign and scorn our enemies and those who call us. In those moments of uncertainty, we must trust that our perspective is limited and that God is working things out in ways we can't always comprehend. The detours, the setbacks, they might just be the very things that prepare us for the greatest breakthroughs of all. Surrendering control is one of the most powerful acts of faith we can practice. It's a release of our grip on the things we think we need to control, and a trust that God has a better plan than we could ever imagine. It's not always easy to let go. Our natural instinct is to hold on tightly, to manage every detail, and to steer our lives in the direction we want. But when we surrender, we open ourselves up to something far greater than we could have ever achieved on our own. When we resist God's plan, we often delay the breakthroughs we're praying for. We become so focused on forcing things to happen the way we think they should that we block the very opportunities God has already set in motion for us. It's as if we're standing in our own way, unwilling to trust that God's timing is perfect. The more we resist, the more we fight against the current of divine guidance, the longer it takes for us to step into the fullness of what He has prepared for us. Surrender isn't about giving up, it's about giving in to the flow of God's purpose for our lives. It's a recognition that we don't have to have all the answers or control every outcome. When we finally let go, we make space. Solutions often arrive in ways we never expected, far from the plans we meticulously laid out. It's in those moments when we feel lost, unsure of what to do next, that the answers show up, not in the form we anticipated, but often in ways that exceed our imagination. It's easy to think that the solution has to look a certain way, or that the breakthrough must happen according to our timeline. But when we trust in faith, we open ourselves to a world of possibilities, many of which we may not have even considered. I'm sure there have been times in your life when things didn't go as planned. You might have had a goal in mind, a path that seemed clear only for everything to fall apart. But looking back, you realize that those unexpected detours led you to something far better than you could have envisioned. Maybe a job you thought was the right fit didn't work out, but that rejection opened the door to a completely new opportunity that changed your life. Or perhaps a relationship you thought was the one ended, only to make way for someone more aligned with your purpose. These unexpected blessings are not accidents, they are divine interventions. When we trust in God's plan, even the challenges and the setbacks become stepping stones that lead us to the right place at the right time. The solutions we seek often come in ways we couldn't have imagined, and it's through surrendering to the process that we make room for these blessings to flow. By letting go of our rigid expectations, we open ourselves to receive the miracles that are waiting to unfold. Challenges, though difficult, have a remarkable way of building strength and resilience within us. In the moment, it may feel as though we're being torn apart by the weight of our struggles. It might seem impossible to see a way through the darkness, but when we look back, we often realize that those challenges were not only a part of our journey, but essential to it. They shaped us, forged our character, and made us stronger than we were before. Each trial, each hardship, is like a stone in the process of refining gold. The pressure, the heat, and the struggle all serve to bring out the best in us, transforming us into someone capable of handling even greater things. When we have faith in God, we begin to see our suffering in a different light. Instead of viewing it as a punishment or a sign of defeat, we start to understand that it is a tool of transformation. Faith teaches us that suffering isn't wasted. It's not something to be feared or avoided, but something that, when embraced, can bring about great growth. It's in these moments of discomfort that we learn lessons we could never have learned in ease. We become more empathetic, more patient, more capable of handling the trials that will inevitably come in the future. Faith in God helps us see the bigger picture. We may not always understand why we're going through a certain trial, but we can trust that God is using it to prepare us for what's ahead. There's purpose in the pain, even when we can't immediately see it. Every challenge is an opportunity to lean on God, to strengthen our resolve, and to draw closer to Him. Through faith, we are reminded that we are never alone in our suffering. God is with us, working in the midst of our pain, turning what feels like defeat into a step towards something greater. It's through faith that we find the strength to keep going. When we face challenges with a heart full of trust, we know that these moments of struggle are not the end of the road, but the very tools God is using to prepare us for a future that is beyond our imagination. The strength we gain from enduring hardship through faith equips us to step into our purpose with courage and conviction. What was once painful becomes a stepping stone toward our destiny. When we trust that God is in control, even in the hardest of times, we begin to see how our suffering is transforming into purpose. To anyone watching right now who feels discouraged, I want you to know that you are not alone. I know it can feel overwhelming at times. Life has a way of throwing challenges at us, and sometimes it feels like the weight of the world is on our shoulders. The road ahead can seem long and uncertain, and in those moments it's easy to wonder if you'll ever make it through. But I'm here to remind you today that God's provision is always there, even when it feels like you're walking through the darkness. You may not see it right now, but God's presence is with you, guiding you, and preparing you for what lies ahead. His provision isn't always immediate, and it doesn't always look the way we expect. But He is faithful. When you feel like you're stuck, when it seems like nothing is moving in your favor, know that behind the scenes God is working on your behalf. His plans for you are bigger than you can imagine, and He has a way of making a way, even when all seems lost. It doesn't matter how long the journey may feel. God's timing is always perfect, and even though it may seem like the path is endless, there is an end in sight. Each step you take, no matter how small, is leading you closer to the breakthrough you've been waiting for. Trust that He is making a way, even when you can't see the full picture. Sometimes, the hardest parts of the journey are the ones that prepare us for the greatest blessings. When you are faithful, when you continue to trust in Him, He will provide in ways you cannot predict. So if you're feeling discouraged, I encourage you to hold on just a little longer. Your faith is never wasted, and every step you take in trust is one step closer to the moment when you'll look back and see how far God has brought you. He is faithful to finish what He starts. No matter what you're facing, no matter how long it takes, God will make a way. Keep going, because the breakthrough you've been praying for could be closer than you think. Keep trusting, keep believing, because with God nothing is impossible. Trusting God's process is often one of the hardest things we can do, especially when life throws challenges our way. It's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of confusion and frustration, to wonder why things aren't going the way we expected, or why it feels like everything is falling apart. But it's in these very moments of struggle that God's process is working, even if we can't see it. Trusting that He has a plan, even when the path is unclear, is key to overcoming life's challenges. The process may not always make sense in the moment. Sometimes the waiting feels unbearable and the pain of the journey feels endless. But God's process is never random. It's always intentional, always working towards something greater, even when we can't fully understand it. Every step we take, no matter how difficult, is a part of a bigger picture that God is painting. It's easy to doubt or question, but trust in His timing and His plan is what will get us through. There is purpose in the struggle, and through it we are being shaped, refined, and made stronger for what is to come. In the midst of all this, it's important to remember that you are not alone in your struggles. It might feel like you're walking through a storm by yourself, but God is always with you. His presence is there in every challenge, in every moment of doubt. You don't have to carry the weight of your burdens alone. God's help is always available, waiting for you to lean on Him. When you trust in His process, you open the door for Him to guide you through the trials you're facing. He never leaves you or forsakes you, even in your darkest moments. Life's challenges are inevitable, but with trust in God's process, they become opportunities for growth and transformation. You may not see it now, but God is working in the background, orchestrating everything for your good. Trusting Him doesn't mean that everything will be easy or that the road will be smooth, but it means that you can move forward knowing that you are not facing anything alone. With every trial, God's hand is there, guiding you through, helping you rise above the struggles and leading you towards something far greater than you could ever imagine. As we wrap up today's message, remember that faith, patience, and trust in God's plan are the keys to overcoming any obstacle. Life may not always unfold the way we expect, and challenges can often feel overwhelming. But it's in these moments that God's presence is strongest. Trust that His plan for you is bigger than anything you can imagine, and even when the path seems uncertain, He is guiding you every step of the way. Be patient, because in His perfect timing, the breakthrough you've been waiting for will come. No matter what you're facing right now, I want to remind you that God will make a way. He's already working behind the scenes, even when you can't see it. So, keep believing, keep trusting, and know that with God, nothing is impossible. Your journey is not over, it's just the beginning of something amazing. If this message has inspired you today, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more empowering content like this. Stay strong, keep the faith, and remember, no matter the situation, God will always make a way for you.